Hey, and welcome to another episode of No Title Needed Show. I am your host, Scott Osborne, and today with me, my guest host is none other than my dad.
Hi, I'm Brad Osborne, and I'm really excited to be here. And our co-host, Cynthia Collins, is up in Cleveland working on a production, and we're really proud of her.
Yep.
And so I get to come in and tell you about Hotel Carmichael, Feinstein's Cabaret.
You sure
does.
does.
This is a great place to enjoy an evening.
It sure is. And we have a wonderful guest with us today, Ashton Gleckman. And Ashton, you have done some incredible things in your very short time. Can you tell us a bit about it?
Absolutely. Well, it's an honor to be here. Thank you for having me.
Truly, it's our pleasure.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I'm from Carmel. So I just turned 25, and I've had the opportunity to make a few films over the past several years and work as a film composer on various productions and host a YouTube channel. And so I love storytelling and history and filmmaking and music, and I just sort of try in my work to explore all of it.
When did you first get the bug? When did you decide that this was your passion?
I think it must have been when I was really young. My parents brought me to the movies all the time. And so I remember just trying to go to one movie a week, no matter what the genre was. It could be historical films, horror films, scary films, psychological thrillers, everything. And I just loved the whole idea of when you're in a movie theater and the lights go out, you're in a different place and time, and you're just completely immersed in a world. And communally, all of you together with the rest of the audience are in this journey together. And I remember falling in love with that experience. And as I grew up and had more experiences like that, and I just realized it was something I really wanted to do. And so my parents were exposing me to different music and movies, and all of that, I guess, came together as it was growing up. And that's sort of the direction I went in.
Very cool.
Wasn't your first one We Shall Not Die Yet? Did I get that one right?
It was called We Shall Not Die Now.
We Shall Not Die Now.
That was actually yes. That was the first documentary I made when I was 18, and I had just come back from LA, working there for a while as a composer, and I decided that I really wanted to pursue filmmaking, and so that was the first production I did, and I traveled to Europe by myself to film there, and filmed about 25 interviews around the country here. So it was sort of going right into the deep end, very little experience in the film world. And it was sort of a trial by fire in a way of just coming to learn how it works.
So, obviously when you're traveling, you grab a camera, you grab a light, and you go to your location. But it's so much more than just that. What are some of the behind the scenes, backdoor elements that you've had to go through to produce that, especially at age 18? There are so many restrictions and other elements. How is that learning at such a young age? How were you able to get through all of that and take on those challenges?
Well, it was something that I heard Hans Zimmer say to me at one point, which is that don't worry about age. There's going to be certain limitations that might seem like they're set for you, but in the end, you need to push through it. And I remember on productions of my films before I turned 21, I would be turned away from certain hotels because I couldn't check into a hotel. And so I had to figure out somewhere else to stay. I would get lost in train stations overseas, things like that, or literally just the logistics of scheduling flights. So, that's sort of the thing that I would always recommend to someone coming up in film is learn how to really get good at just logistics of how to have a calendar and figuring out how many interviews you could slate in 1 week or 1 day. And at that point, that's really the one thing I had to learn. I had no idea how it worked. And and every day is in film, it's money. And so the best you could figure out how to bring the shooting days down, the most ideal it'll be in terms of the budget.
Incredible. Yeah. Now, Ashton, did you have an early knowledge of a passion of telling the story of the Holocaust? Was that something that happened earlier, or did that happen through your early production experiences? Where'd that come from?
So I always knew growing up that my dad's side of the family was 100% Eastern European Jewish, that they had come from the sort of area, Lithuania, Ukraine area. And I always knew growing up, I remember vividly when I was 7, there was a new exhibit that was put in at the Children's Museum in Indianapolis, and it was an Anne Frank exhibit. And I remember vividly being a young kid member of the Boy Scouts, going in and seeing this sort of life-size portrait of Anne Frank, and how moved I was by that, and then seeing the Nazi soldier as well, and the resonance that had, and then I coming to learn that my great uncle was one of the liberators at the Buchenwald concentration camp, and it became, I think, the one biggest core through line of my life in terms of my passion for history is trying to understand this period and this event over the years. And so I've kept coming back to it. And
why?
Yes. And as various films have come out, as books have come out, I've continuously looked into it. And it was only through, my work in documentaries that I actually got to visit these sites and come much closer to it than I had before. And, it's been a moving experience.
How much new information has come to light in the time that you've started your study of the Holocaust and that time frame? How much has developed? Because with it being so far in the past,
yeah.
I'm just
what's extraordinary about it is the amount of new information that is coming out all of the time. For instance, the film I just finished is called The Quiet Village, and the film essentially tells the story of the first extermination camp the Nazis built in Poland with a specific design for industrialized killing. And we actually found the first verifiable photographs of a Nazi gas van that had basically been in archives in Germany for about 8 decades. And so there had been many images floating around since 1945 of supposed gas vans, but we were able to prove unequivocally. And this was a study that was just published in Germany through the T4 Association and was sort of pioneered and endorsed by the German government. So things like that come about, and the whole idea is the more you learn, the more questions you have. Right. And the Holocaust is but one example of a historical subject that there's many layers of the onion, so to say, that continue to get peeled back and continue to go further in. And so it's just important to always keep asking the questions and seeing what history sort of reveals of itself.
Yeah.
Hey, I got to interrupt you real quick, but we will be right back after this word from Randy Sorrell Art.
Hey everyone, we're lucky enough to have artist Randy Sorrell as our sponsor, and today he's going to show you a few of his beautiful pieces.
Check this out.
Say hello to Songbook Standards. This is an original acrylic, part of my music series that I completed in 2024, sort of celebrating jazz and blues and cool clubs all across the nation or the world. And if you dig music, man, you are going to love this one. Lavender Fields is part of my landscape series, and if you could see this in person, you would recognize how thick and juicy and packed full of color this painting is. And it really captures the lavender fields that you see in France and, sometimes here in Indiana. I think you're going to love this one.
Hey, and we are back with Ashton Gleckman. So, Ashton, you are working on, or you have worked on a long documentary series on Kennedy. Can you tell us a bit about the process of that?
Yeah. When I was 20 years old, I started producing a documentary series called Kennedy, which ended up being an 8-part series on the History Channel. And it was sort of a 3-year process from the inception of it all the way through to the final distribution. And the whole idea of the documentary was to tell the story of JFK all the way from his birth to the assassination and sort of explore it in more detail than has been put on screen in a documentary form so far. And so going back to the original archives, where all of his papers are stored at the JFK Library, I started researching it in, I think, at the end of 2021. And then we started filming it early the next year. So it was a really intense process.
Well, I'm glad to hear that you focus on the whole life, because so many of the documentaries I've seen are just on the assassination, and you kind of you don't get to hear about the rise to getting to that point. And I'm excited to spend some time watching that.
Exactly, and that was the whole idea, is that there's been so much emphasis on the assassination, but there's this incredible story. So the first 4 hours of it is before he even becomes president.
One of the comments that I heard, and I don't know who made it, I don't recall, but it was Jack was an afterthought. And when they were talking about Joe being the chosen son, and Jack wasn't even really what Grandpa Kennedy was really shooting for.
It's true. I mean, JFK was in many ways the underdog in this story, because specifically in the Kennedy family. Because if you think about it, from the boys in the family, JFK was constantly sick, and he was somebody who, compared to Joe Kennedy Jr., who was his older brother, the father was not putting a lot of effort into JFK becoming some kind of political figure. And so it was really after World War II when JFK survived the war, became a war hero in the process, came back home, that he sort of began his political rise. And that's where the story really picks up in episode 3 of the series.
Awesome. So you are also doing you're involved in a lot of things. My gosh. Hopefully we have time to get to all of them. So you have a YouTube channel, Behind the Score. You've gotten to talk to some really, really incredible people during that. Can you tell us a bit about them and that experience?
Yeah, so that series started out in 2015, right when I was beginning the process of learning how to score films and studying music composition. And I started a YouTube channel, and the whole idea of the Behind the Score series was to take influential film scores that have had an impact in the industry, and basically dissect them and analyze them and look at the different themes that run through them, and explore the orchestration and instrumentation. So for each of these presentations, they're about an hour long, I would explore all of those various aspects and put together a collection of about 10 minutes of music from each film, and break down, how the music interweaves in the story, what some of the thought processes of the composer would have been, and designing the themes and how they work with the story. And then eventually I started interviewing composers as well. So I did an interview last year with Harry Gregson Williams, who did the Narnia movies, and we did an in-person studio interview sort of experience last year.
Where did that take you to?
That was Los Angeles.
Okay.
And so it was an amazing experience. And I also did one a couple years ago for Avatar 3 with the composer, or Avatar 2. And we're going to be doing one for Avatar 3 as well. So it's...
Now, Ashton was the evolving AI music creation. Does that change the whole Behind the Score concept? I mean, literally, does that... are there little tweaks that can be made and no real...
creatives. We love
creatives.
Right. Well, I'll say that I'm a member of the Directors Guild, and there's also been stuff going on with SAG. Of course, there was a big strike. There's also a writer's strike that happened as well. Some really important conversations have been going on about AI, and it's of my opinion we need to work as diligently as we can to protect the integrity of these projects. And when I mean that, I mean the integrity of the human beings that put their life and their love into it, and the magic that humanity brings to these pieces of art. And I've always felt that as AI continues, it'll continue. But really, in the end, what it will remind us of is of the human art and how magical that really is. Right. So I think that as that continues to develop, we'll continue to keep going back and saying, okay, no, this is really the stuff that moves us.
Fingers crossed the viewers agree with you.
Yes, absolutely. Certainly.
Incredible. So you mentioned a year ago you had an interview. Are you still in the process of adding to Behind the Score?
Absolutely. So we have interviews sort of scheduled to come about over the next few months. But I'm also developing 2 films and just finished 1 film. And so there's sort of a process of sort of balancing all the different projects. And seeing where the path takes you.
So one of those films is The Quiet Village. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, so The Quiet Village is a documentary feature narrated by Liev Schreiber. It tells the story of Kulmhof, the first Nazi extermination camp in occupied Poland. So this is basically before Auschwitz, before Treblinka. This is the first place that the Nazis designed a industrial killing apparatus, using what essentially were furniture trucks that have been converted into gas vans. So this story had really been hidden in archives in terms of the details of it. We came into contact with about 3,000 pages of German court documents.
Oh my God.
Interviews with the perpetrators. as well. So we spent years researching it, working with a research team in Germany called the T4 Association, and going on site in Poland and basically trying to explore this story and discover more about it. And it was the most moving experience of my life, the project that I think has transformed me the most, and I've put everything of myself into it. So we're in a process of figuring out when that film will premiere.
That was my next question.
Where it will premiere. We've literally just finished it, so hopefully we'll have more news.
Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
How long was this one?
That was about 2 years.
2 years.
From the process.
Ashton, when you take the concepts of the hate and the so forth how can that be, how are you preparing to have an impact on the youngest generations with the things that you've learned through this research? Well, I mean, how can you go into schools? How can you do things to reach people that will only have people share some stories about this?
I mean, I think the biggest thing is storytelling has such an incredible impact. We've seen how films are able to sort of transcend age groups, generations. They have an incredible ability to sort of take audiences all around the world and immerse them and give them with a sense of empathy, because that's really the things that films have been able to do is connect you with a different way of life, a different human experience, human relationships that you might not experience or see, or that kind of thing. And so films have a huge ability to do this. That's honestly the reason why I decided to go into this field, is because we're able to take these stories that might be hidden, that might be unappreciated or and that kind of thing, and then bring it to the fore and do it in a way that helps audiences connect and empathize with people. And that's been the goal of the whole thing.
I tell you, I am so excited that truly, to have met you, but two, know the impact that you'll have on my kids and my grandkids long after I'm gone for subjects that need to be shared at various levels. So thank you for investing your life into some of these most critical issues.
It means a lot, and all that I try to do is just make a good film and put the effort that goes into it. But I hope that at least what the film can do, no matter, is just start a conversation, because I think that's what we really need, is people to talk about our problems rather than engaging in political violence or engaging in things that really are not really progressive for having a good dialogue in humanity.
Maybe that's one of your upcoming productions. Let's start a conversation.
Yeah.
And
there you go.
So because I so value what you do, Ashton.
Yep. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Thank you so much, Ashton.
Thank
Appreciate you being here.
Absolute honor. Thank you so much.
And we got to wrap up. Thank you all for joining us today. This has been another episode of No Title Needed. And we would like to thank our sponsor, Hotel Carmichael and Feinstein's, for allowing us to use this beautiful facility. And do yourself a favor, come out and catch a show here. It is beautiful. The ambiance is great, and the performers are fantastic. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next week.